All right, so thanks very much for coming. We have today, I think, relatively, we have attendance from a number of our alumni, current students who will be available to answer questions about our program, and several of our faculty. Frank, do we have the
online question system?
Do we have the slides on screen?
I don't know. Let me ask the workers at home.
Okay.
You could bring a picture.
I've got my laptop. I just realized that.
Now people can see it.
So online people can see it. Yeah. But the people in the room cannot. So I thought we were going to be broadcasting it from back there. On the screen.
That's a little tough. Let me find someone.
She said she had a big exam today. Can we go to meet you? I said, sure. She said she will not go. Somebody she's a wife. She's a part of the manager. She has something for her. She's a wife. Which parents do
Don't know how to turn on the projector here.
I think that's the online for the online.
All right, good. Thank goodness. Okay, thank you. All right. So I knew there was one thing missing, and that was a slide. So thank you for coming today. And the idea here is that we've got alumni, current students, and some faculty to talk about our program in transportation engineering, which is a group within the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering here at the University of Washington. I'm Don McKenzie. I'm an associate professor in the CEE Department of the Transportation Engineering Group. And we have, I'll point out some of the faculty. We have Professor Yin-Hai Wang here, who's the director of the Pacific Northwest Transportation Consortium and the STAR Lab. We have Professor Ed McCormack, who works with the Urban Freight Lab and leads our online Master of Sustainable Transportation program. We have Professor Jeff Ban, who leads the Intelligent Urban Transportation Systems, IUTS lab as well. So with that, I'll get going, and I'm going to try and go reasonably quickly through my slides, so as not to dwell too long, and we can get on to the interesting speakers, which will follow this presentation. Any questions we have with some alumni who can give a short rundown on what they've been doing since they left the program and how the program prepared them for that. So I'd like to start with this slide. What this is showing is sort of what I think makes transportation engineering really interesting and challenging today, and that is that when we, years ago, we'd be working in the transportation system, we could solve transportation problems somewhat in isolation, but we're seeing now, and elsewhere in the world, there are people working on systems like electricity and information communications technologies, and these were, these could be kind of addressed somewhat independently. But we're seeing now a great deal more operational integration of these systems. For instance, by plugging in electric vehicles, this puts large loads on the electric grid. It means we need to understand that both the technical aspects of both the electricity distribution system and the transportation system. Similarly, we have smart grid technologies, bringing a lot more communication and computing technology into the electric system. We have intelligent transportation systems, ITS, doing the same with transportation. And we see a movement towards sort of fully integrating these technologies with automated, connected, electric shared mobility. And so this is creating a lot of technical challenges about how we do this, but they also have immense sort of social implications. So all of these technical systems operate within our society, and these interactions create a lot of challenges for how we, not just how we build them, but how we manage them and the implications they have for our society. And that means interesting challenges and problems and the need for really bright, talented people from a range of disciplines coming to work in the transportation field. And so related to this, transportation engineering is evolving. Traditionally, we would have said that being a transportation engineer was about designing and operating streets, roads, and highways, and maybe rail systems, transit systems. But we're looking now really towards focusing on what transportation is supposed to do. That's providing mobility to people and goods and optimizing that mobility. And to do that, we need to do more than just build infrastructure. We need to understand the science of logistics and optimization. We need to understand statistics and machine learning to draw insights out of large amounts of data that are generated by our system. And we need an understanding, particularly as now these systems, our transportation is being integrated with these other systems, we need to understand resiliency in networks and how these large complex systems interact. So it's an evolving field, and it is moving in a direction where we need a much broader understanding than we've had in the past. And what makes this challenging, really, is the idea that we have many stakeholders, we have distributed decision making. So we have many different users, many different needs and priorities in transportation. Sometimes their goals will be in competition with one another. Whatever decisions we make, designs we come up with, are subject to intense political scrutiny because transportation impacts every aspect of our lives, and because it is often, we're working with things that are extremely costly and capital intensive. We're also trying to maintain the performance of our existing system even as we build onto it and make it better as we go. And many of the decisions that we need to make, it's not just the stakeholders and the users who are distributed and have different interests, but many times the decisions are made by people at different levels of government, local, state, federal, or by actors in the private sector. So there's many different players that need to come together and collaborate on decisions. And ultimately, this is about people. And people, right, that's why we're providing transportation, is to make people's lives better, but it also makes it really challenging. And that's why, again, this is a field that needs not only a technical capability, but an understanding of that environment that we're operating in. And so given the sort of importance of multidisciplinary skills and backgrounds, our faculty reflects that. So some of the faculty we see in the room up here, some are not here today. The fact is most of us have at least one degree from outside civil engineering, whether it's in computer science or math or geography or industrial engineering or another field. Most of us are bringing perspective from another field as well as civil engineering to our work and to our teaching. We also, recognizing this is such a broad and multidisciplinary field, we make our program flexible to accommodate the needs of different students. So we have a core, a certain required core of courses that I'll talk about momentarily, but the idea is we're trying to equip all of our students, particularly our grad students, with a certain foundation in technical skills, but allowing them the flexibility to kind of build on top of that, gain deeper understanding in some areas, and apply that across any of a wide range of application areas that they might choose to focus on. So it's a big field. We all come to it with different interests and priorities, and we try to allow that flexibility in our program for students to kind of find what works for them. So this is pretty exciting. We have just this year launched for the first time a major revision of our graduate curriculum. We have realigned our graduate core courses to really focus on some of the emerging needs in the transportation world and to really bring in a stronger data science component. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But this core that we have, it's 5 courses. It is 16 credits of required courses out of the 42 total credits for a master's degree in our program. And the 5 courses are listed here. It is basically the first one is a transportation planning course. What really sets it apart from transportation planning at other universities, at most other universities, is that we have integrated the consideration of freight issues into this course. So a lot of transportation planning focuses on people. We focus not only on the movement of people, but on the movement of freight and goods, because people need to not just move themselves, but they need things brought to them, particularly with the trend towards greater online commerce. The other courses are mostly methodological, focusing on essentially how do we collect data, how do we manage and store and visualize data, and then how do we draw insights out of that data, and also then how can we model and optimize technical systems. So this is a foundation mostly of quantitative skills. And then we have a set of electives that are very flexible. So these are elective courses that we're offering in our graduate program right now. We also require graduate students to take at least one course outside of the CEE department. They can take more, and the program that students build is really what they develop based on their needs and interests and get approved by their program advisor. We have several different graduate programs, and these really depend on the students' interests and needs. And these kind of range from, on the one end, very, very research focused, to on the other end, very, very sort of practice oriented, really focused on working professionals. And so on the one end, we have a fairly traditional thesis-based, 2-year thesis-based master's program that is usually students in that program are planning to go into a PhD program and spend about another 3 years in a PhD program out of that master's program. We also have a non-thesis master's program, which is some students take 1 year, some students take 2 years on this program. But the idea, okay, yeah, that's okay. But the idea there is that this is a less research intensive, more coursework focused program. And then finally, we have an internship-focused master's track, which is lighter on research like the non-thesis master's, but additionally, students can earn up to 6 credits, or do earn up to 6 credits by earning credits for internships in a relevant transportation internship. So those are our kind of spectrum of on-campus master's programs. We also have an online Master of Sustainable Transportation program, which Professor McCormack leads. And we have an online Master of Supply Chain Transportation and Logistics degree, which Professor Ann Goodchild leads. And although we list these as separate programs, and sort of formally they are separate, they all lead to the same MS, Master of Science in Civil Engineering degree. And students take classes together, they work together in teams, they're members of the same lab. So these really are fully integrated and coordinated with one another. But again, it's more variation to allow students to find the program that's going to work for them and meet their needs, depending on whether they want to continue in research or go into practice. So those they vary. I think I mentioned this. The key difference here is your research track, you're going to do 9 credits worth of research in the form of a thesis. Your non-thesis master's degrees, you do 3 credits of research in the form of a research paper. And then your internship track, you'll have fewer coursework credits and make up some of that with internship credits. There's also a number of concurrent certificates or degrees or options that students can pursue. One of the really exciting ones right now is the data science option. Currently, this is available to PhD students in our department. The revised curriculum that we created that is our graduate core gets students most of the way to qualifying for this data science option, which is a transcriptable option on their degree. Additionally, they have to take a couple of seminars in data science and potentially a programming course. But basically, if you take our graduate core, you've mostly qualified for this data science option designation. We've got that in place for our PhD. We're working right now on getting that in place for our master's program. Other students have done MSs in statistics or urban planning concurrently. There's international development certificates through the Evans School, a number of other options. I want to say a little bit about resources that we have available to support students. So the way students get support depends to a certain degree on which track they're in. So students who are PhD track or thesis track masters, will typically work as research assistants or teaching assistants, and that will provide tuition and a stipend to cover their costs while they're students. Students on the non-thesis track, PACTRANS, which is the Pacific Northwest Transportation Consortium, is an entity, I'll say more about that in a minute, but they provide fellowship funding to non-thesis master's students who are working towards becoming, transportation professionals. We have exchange programs through the VALA program to send students to Scandinavia and to bring Scandinavian students to the UW. There's a number of independent internships, so we often, as faculty, we hear from our colleagues and contacts in industry. We help to connect students with internship opportunities there, as well as with, getting, sort of trying to bring in data and problems for students to work on. So there's a number of resources. I want to talk a little bit about these ones here. So I mentioned PACTRANS. That is what's known as a University Transportation Center, or UTC. This is an entity that receives funding from the US Department of Transportation. There's a whole network of these around the United States. PACTRANS is a regional UTC serving the needs of the Pacific Northwest region. The UW is the lead institution for PACTRANS, and that brings a lot of benefits to our students. There's an annual conference that PACTRANS hosts. They run a sort of 2 conferences in parallel, one for students, one for kind of everyone, including students. It also is able to provide travel support to students to go and present their research at conferences, and provides research funding to faculty, which then in turn provides research assistantships to students. There's several other UTCs that the UW is a partner on. C2 Smart is a Connected Cities and Smart Mobility Center led by NYU. CSET, the Center for Safety and Equity in Transportation, I believe, is based out of University of Alaska Fairbanks. And TomNet, Teaching Old Models, New Tricks, is led, I think, by Arizona State. And the ABC is Accelerated Bridge Construction at South Florida. Yeah. But UW is a partner on all of these. And sort of nearly finished, talking a little bit about research. I mentioned, every grad student has to do research as part of their degree. If you're on the thesis track, you do more research, or you're required to do more research. If you're on the non-thesis track, you have a lighter research requirement. But the idea is that no matter which master's program you're in, you are going to do some research. And that's important, because when you get out of here, someone's going to say, hey, you got a master's in transportation engineering from the UW. What does this research mean, right? So something that's expected of people with a master's degree is that you can read and interpret and understand and assess research, and there's really no better way to gain that skill than by doing research yourself. So we require all our students to participate and do research. The way that happens is you typically work with a faculty advisor, and each faculty advisor leads a lab. And so we have, sort of for each faculty member, we have a lab here. And really the idea is that each of these labs caters to different interests. And I can say a little bit. So Professor Linda Ng Boyle leads the Human Factors and Statistical Modeling Lab. They focus on safety largely, particularly human behavior and safe versus unsafe behaviors. The STAR Lab, led by Yinhai Wang, focuses on data, sensing, computing, analytics, AI. Is that fair, Yinhai? Yeah. I lead the Sustainable Transportation Lab. We focus on sort of emerging mobility technologies and how those affect social and economic and environmental sustainability. Cynthia Chen's Think Lab, Transportation, Human Interaction, and Network Knowledge Lab. They focus a lot now on resiliency, so understanding how the transportation system responds under extreme events. Jeff's Intelligent Urban Transportation Systems Lab focuses on optimally managing the transportation system, particularly bringing in network methods. That's okay? And Professor Ann Goodchild, Ann's not here, and Ed does a lot of work with the Urban Freight Lab, where they focus a lot on the delivery of goods in the urban setting. So home delivery and delivery to businesses of goods. So that's kind of the overview of research. So there's a wide range not just in kind of topical areas, but in methods that we bring to bear on our research as well. So a good idea is look into each of those labs, see what different faculty are doing, and understand kind of whose interests align with yours. And then the last thing is, where do our alumni go? And I'm wondering if there's any, we'll probably have an alumni panel here, and I won't have the company up here where they're at, or have we got them all? So this is a set of companies sort of on the left side here, what I would call traditional transportation engineering jobs. And many of our alumni still go into those jobs with departments of transportation or consultancies who serve departments of transportation or transit agencies. And so this is a sampling of places that we've had alumni go or students go for internships, or where we have ongoing partnerships with these companies or agencies. And then on the right side, these are some of these newer companies, new mobility. We've had students go, or we've collaborated on research, or we've had alumni go to work for these places. And this is just a subset. This is mostly where my students have gone, because those are the ones I know. But we have so a large number, both in the kind of traditional side and the more new mobility side. So I will stop there with my prepared comments. If there are any questions, I can take them, or we'll be around after if there are any questions. And I can, so we'll give it a second, see if anyone online has any questions, Frank. And if not, then we can invite our alumni up. Sound good? All right, so I will introduce our alumni briefly, and what I've asked for each of them is to kind of give a couple-minute overview of the role they're in now and how they got there after leaving our program. I think the alumni here have graduated anywhere from 1 or 2 to up to about 6 years ago, I think. So these are fairly recent graduates of our program. But just tell a little bit about how the program prepared them and kind of what they're doing now and how they got there. So our 4 alumni are Carmen Kwan, who was, I'll let you all say where you are. So Carmen Kwan, Mel Yubi, Xin Wang, and Paulina Butrina. So would you all like to come up and sit at the table? So does anyone want to volunteer to go first?
Sure, I can start.
Please use that. Yeah.
Okay. Again, my name is Carmen Kwan. I was a Pac Trans fellow in 2013. Okay. I was a Pac Trans fellow and graduated with my master's degree in transportation in 2013. During that time, I was an intern also at the Washington State DOT in their traffic management center related to freeway operations. So after I graduated, I actually got my first job in consultancy with Fair & Piers in the downtown Seattle office. A lot of the work that I work on relate to long-range travel demand modeling, transit planning, traffic operations analysis, a whole gamut of things.
Hi everyone, I'm Jun. I attended the PhD program between 2011 to 2014. And upon my graduation, I joined Amazon, the logistics department. So I worked on various projects to collaborate with USPS to do the last mile delivery. I was at Amazon for 5 years. And this year, I just moved to Uber, and I'm currently working on fraud detection to detect fraud drivers on Uber system platform.
Hello, my name is Paulina Butrina, and I have graduated with a thesis master in the spring 2018. And during my master program, I did an internship in a consulting firm where I ended up going to after my graduation. And also at the University of Washington, I was a part of the Urban Freight Lab with Anne Woodchild and Anne McCormack, which I loved, so apply 100%. No, but anyway, so after my graduation, I went to be a transportation planner at Transport Group. Transport Group is pretty small consulting firm located in Kirkland, which is a little bit outside of Seattle. And out there, I'm a part of transportation planning group where I work on a lot of plans, including long-range transportation plan, transit plans, safety plans, campus plans as well. But the majority of the time, I do a lot of data analysis, transportation data analysis, data visualization, creating maps. And so to answer the question how this program supported me in my daily task, I can say that 100% I use the software right now that UW, like some of the courses have taught me, like ArcGIS or R or Python as well, Tableau, and also the master program that I have attended prepared me to just critically analyze the information and understanding where the data is coming from, how we should prepare that, and how we should present it to the clients.
Hi, my name is Mel Doobie, and I graduated in 2016, which feels like a long time ago. But I actually did the non-thesis program. The way I came in is I actually worked in a private consulting firm called Parametrics doing engineering design, and I wanted to kind of realign my career and get into more traffic. And so I joined the program part-time, so I was doing part-time work and part-time school, and I did the program in 2 years. So it was a good balance. I think it was fair, but challenging at the same time. So it was a great experience. During my time, the program has taught me a lot. I mean, it's a lot of critical thinking. It's a lot of analyzing data and thinking in a very critical manner. Also the research. I did a big research project with Anne Goodchild, so I was part of her freight lab, and so I did a big research project on freight logistics, which was a good experience. I got to go to China and present over there. So we went to Shanghai for the World Transportation Conference. So it was a great experience. And then in the middle of my program, I actually got a job at SDOT. And so I was working at SDOT for my last year, working in the operations center there. And then since then, I'm an engineer in the operations division. I do program management, planning, design. So I work in the ITS group, and it's been really great, and I use a lot of experience that I learned here. It's been a great resource. So yeah.
And actually one thing, were all of you engineers coming in, or did any of you have different training?
Yeah, for myself, I graduated undergrad as a civil engineer, and so I worked at a firm just doing design work, so road design, trails, yeah.
In my bachelor's, originally I'm from Russia, and I have graduated with a supply chain and logistics degree.
Yeah, I had my undergraduate in China, so I was majored in geography and geographic information system. And also talking about how this program helped me prepare, I feel there are a couple things. So first of all, I'm interested in transportation because I feel it's a vital part of my life. Like we participate in transportation every day, and there are a lot of emerging questions and challenges about transportation. Plus, transportation I feel is dynamic, or which makes it challenging and interesting. So I just in general want to learn more in this area. That's why at the beginning I chose to continue graduate school. So it helped me to gain more knowledge, professional knowledge in depth. And secondly, I feel the things I get most from the graduate program is that I learned the critical thinking. So before I attended the program, I mainly absorbed information from textbook or from articles or reports. So I take whatever people say. But in graduate program, by working on different research projects, I learned to have critical thinking, and I still value it a lot in my daily work. I feel it's important that you execute, but it's also important that you think and ask right questions before you execute. And also, I learned a lot of I gained advanced skills that can help me to better do my job. Because Don showed the slides, so these days it's not just the traditional civil engineering anymore. There's big data, there's like social science. So when we have a lot of data, we need basic skills to extract information from those data. So I learned the data cleaning skills, for example. I learned programming, and I learned data analysis, info analysis. So I feel those knowledge help me to do better work, to do better job. And lastly, I just feel in graduate school, you get the chance to work more closely with professors, researchers, the people that you look up to or you are inspired by. So at some extent, maybe it's just for me, I just feel it helped me to become a better myself. So, and also you have the chance, the time to really focus on something, just read a paper, think about a question, academic questions. So I really value my graduate experience.
I'll just add that my undergraduate degree was from the University of Washington in civil engineering. But what I really got out of the graduate program was not just the more specialized technical classes that I was taking in the transportation industry that aren't really offered to undergraduates, but there was also a lot of opportunity to take classes in the urban planning department and the geography department, which gave me a different way at looking at how the world operates and some of the politics and the policies that go behind the transportation system that we see today. And that perspective has really helped as I entered my first job in industry, where generally the clients that I was working for were the public sector.
Thanks. And I guess one other question that I have is, I mean, you talked a lot about sort of the skills you got out of the program. I think several of you mentioned that. I'm curious if you can comment, any of you, on what do you think are sort of the traits or the non-technical skills that are important for people who are interested in entering the transportation field?
Some non-technical traits that we always look for when we are looking at new hires in our company are folks who are willing to speak up and provide their opinions and their thoughts. It's really important that you put yourself out there and kind of share what you're thinking. And you probably have some really great ideas considering you've gone through, just graduated from college, you've done some research in the transportation industry. You might provide some new aspects to others that you work with. Another factor that's really important is actually communication and writing. There is a lot of memo writing that you'll probably end up doing in your future position, and being able to convey your findings clearly to someone who may not be as technical as you is very important.
I think one thing my team value a lot is the critical thinking, as I mentioned. So we value people to ask questions or even challenges. Yeah.
All of the above. Again, at anything.
So non-technical, right? So I think going off the communication part, when you're in this program, you in the coursework, you do a lot of group projects, you do a lot of presentations, and so the communication piece is very important, especially when you're presenting a project of some sort. Having those skill sets about public speaking is very important, especially when you go into the industry. There's a lot of that, and so being able to speak to people and present your work in a very understanding manner is very critical. Also, just people skills. You're going to meet a lot of people in this program from all over the world. So that's very eye-opening. You get to learn a lot about different cultures, which is a really good experience. So, yeah.
Great. Do we have any questions for our alumni panel from the audience or online?
So I'm in the GIS geography department as an undergrad, and I want to know what are the process of trying to get into the CEE or CET program based on just the GIS degree.
You have a geography.
Or
So I'm a geographer too.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything complicated about getting it.
Okay.
Just applying, right?
Yeah, do you want to use the mic? Sorry, I should have thought of that.
You know, as I said, I'm a geographer. I had a PhD in geography, and sort of I evolved into civil engineering. And there's a pretty good fit in a lot of ways because transportation is a spatial phenomena. As a geographer and GIS guy, you're analyzing spatial phenomena. So I think all of you use GIS software, didn't you, in your degree? See, everybody's saying yes. So it's a pretty good skill to have to bring into the program. So like I said, I think you probably need to apply.
So actually, transportation is a very broad application field. You see people with different backgrounds, as those people have different backgrounds. If you look at the students in the STAR Lab, you see a third of the people from civil engineering, a third from maybe computer science or automation, and another third even from mathematics or chemical engineering. So we have 7 faculty members with 8 different backgrounds. So we have the degree requirements, like if you have a civil engineering background, you know, bachelor's degree in civil engineering, you'll get a MSCE, like a Master of Science in Civil Engineering. If you have geography, if it's a non-engineering undergraduate degree, you'll get a Master of Science. If you have an engineering but not civil, you get an MSE, so like a Master of Science in Engineering. So from the curriculum perspective, there's not much difference. In our review process, we actually encourage students with different background come to apply to our program because we really want students with different background to work together. You see actually Zun's been working for Amazon and then working for Uber. We have also a lot of students working for like Google, Zillow. These are all very different. You know, transportation is an area quickly evolving. And students with different background come to study transportation. They can bring in their own thoughts, which could be very critical and important for the future transportation industry. So we actually encourage people with different background to come to study with us. Did we answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other question? Or maybe I want to add some more information because I appreciate our alumni coming back to your home university, share your experience. These people actually have the bachelor's degree and then master's degree. Some go with PhD degree. Starting from last year, we actually started a bachelor to master. We want to make a seamless transition. I invited Sam here today. Sam actually is our first example. He has several classes completed in the bachelor's study, and he started the master this fall, but he's expecting to finish sooner because he has some credits already done, and even he's working as a research track master's degree student, but he probably take the whole time even shorter than a regular, non-thesis track. So that's another thing we want to enhance. And if you have been studying in the civil engineering department here, you may consider in your senior year, when you have some free time, you want to study some graduate level course. When you started, the graduate program is a lot easier. Even in your case, you could register classes.
Yes, I'm currently enrolled in the CEC 561 with Ryan degree, transportation planning and design. So I am already enrolled in one master's already enrolled, would that count as part of requirements?
Yes and no. If you count that particular class as part of your undergraduate credits, it won't count for the graduate, will not be double counted. But if you did not count your undergraduate, that could be reserved for use for your graduate study. There's still some details we need to figure out, but Sam is actually an example. Actually, he's targeting to finish much sooner and then continue as a PhD student.
There's the other issue there with 561 being one of the online courses that we haven't quite fully got to where we'd like to be on having the online, the on-campus.
Well, that's the online. I think there's another thing we need to consider. We have been talking all about on-campus because the ownership of these different programs is different. Sam, you want to say something about your experience?
Sure, I guess. So, yeah, as was said, I did my undergrad here. I graduated from my undergrad last year and then came into the master's this year. So, yeah, basically, I think I took 6 credits total of graduate credits on top of my undergraduate classes. So that, yeah, that basically is allowing me to finish my master's earlier, and I'm planning on going on to get a PhD, so I can dig into that earlier as well, which is super beneficial. Also, for anyone who's listening, even if you aren't planning to go into a master's or a PhD or anything, take graduate classes because they're more fun. They just are. But yeah, I think that, and even if, again, also, even if you're just thinking about it, and obviously this is going to be more for students who are looking at this from the UW, this will be more beneficial from a credit standpoint, but even if you're, say, a prospective student from another university or something, or you aren't even planning on going to a graduate program at all, taking those courses is just another feather you can put in your cap that'll differentiate you in a resume or in an interview. You can say, I took graduate classes, which is better than all the other people who didn't. So it can be a really valuable thing to understand all of the sort of the higher level of thinking almost, because undergraduate classes they prepare you with the basic information, but graduate school classes, and I think a lot of the panel up front described this very well. It elevates how you think about the world and problems you face, and in this case, that's applied to transportation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to mention. Actually, several of you are actually PacTrans fellow, right? When you were studying in our graduate level program. Carmen was one of the earliest. Carmen was actually in the UW honor program. I remember she stopped by and said, I'm interested in doing research in transportation. You can also engage in your research activities early. PacTrans is the US DOT funded University Transportation Center for Federal Region 10. We also have the undergraduate research fellow program. Sam actually was an undergraduate research fellow. If you have a clear idea and you know, oh, I want to work with this professor, you could get $2,000 supporting some of your research costs. Each faculty member in our program can have one research fellow every quarter, and we could make a good use of this. And the student can start to work on paper, like Sam started to work on a TRB paper in his undergraduate situation, and he knows how to write paper now. I think it's certainly great for him to build strengths and carry this over to the graduate study. So the PacTrans undergraduate research fellowship help undergraduate students to work on some research issues, maybe purchasing some supply that you need to do the research. And for the graduate level research fellow, we have 5 PacTrans fellow every year. And this PacTrans fellow covers your tuition completely. And we also help you make connection to the future employer. You can do intern, cover your daily expense. You get your tuition covered. So this is a very easy way, to handle your graduate studies cost. This is only for permanent residents and U.S. citizens. It's not available for foreign students. Foreign student could apply for RA. You can compete for RA, or maybe other kind of special scholarships. But for Pac-Trans Fellow, per U.S. DOT's requirement, it has to be local, like residents or like U.S. citizen. Any other questions?
Actually, I'd also like to just briefly mention on the undergraduate option for the Pac-Trans. And this is going to be for students who are still in undergrad, obviously. But I would highly recommend attempting to take advantage of this opportunity for a couple reasons. First off, obviously, money is good. Everyone loves money. And it's great to have your skills be valued in that way. But more importantly, also it's a great experience builder. And so for me, when I was in undergrad, I had just taken the junior level undergrad transportation class, and I had been thinking before about how I wanted to do transportation, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. Did I want to work in industry, do research? It was kind of up in the air. So I actually took Professor Wong's class. So then after that class, I went and talked to him and said, hey, I'm interested in doing a little research, because I know at the UW as well, you can also, that research can also count for credit for your degree if you're in the civil engineering department. So it's kind of a double whammy for that, but I did that thinking I'd get the credit and maybe get a little research experience, and I found out that that is something I really enjoy. So it's a great way for you to test the waters, kind of to determine whether that's something that you'd actually want to think about moving into the future. And you know, if you say, I tried it, I hate it, I want to go work in industry, then great, you've effectively stopped yourself from going into a master's or a PhD and disliking it for years to come. So I really see very little downside to taking advantage of some of those opportunities.
Thank you. Maybe some of you also care about what is the future, right? After you study at the University of Washington's Graduate Transportation Engineering program, what's likely your jobs, your future career? I think this is the sample of our students. Actually, in the past several years, we see more and more people go to the non-classical transportation engineering job, like the Uber, Amazon, Zillow kind of job. Like at least in the Star Lab, I see the recent graduates, maybe 60 or 70% not in the classical transportation engineering kind of job. So with the new curriculum revision, we significantly enhanced the data science content. So we would consider our future graduates will have better skills and capability in doing like data science related work, which is on demand on the market, not just in the classical transportation engineering part. I believe, Carmen, you also do a lot of data science work. I remember I go to Seattle DOT, I saw this guy almost every time I go. So he's actually in the traffic control center, and we had some intern students with you at the moment. Jeff was there.
Yeah.
I don't know where's Jeff. But anyway, I think even you manage all these, look like a classical job.
Yeah.
But with all the information coming into you, how do we make good use of the information?
Yeah.
That actually requires a lot of new thinking, new tool, new models. So I guess through this kind of master's program training, we hope our students will be very capable and competitive in that kind of job.
Yeah, Jeffrey Connor is actually one of the students here. He works at SDOT, but he's a data scientist for us. So he does a lot of performance metrics measures and you know, communicates that to the public and to the mayor's office to see what the traffic conditions are before and after studies. So.
He's also in SDOT
Yeah.
now. Well,
Yeah.
That's great.
I think it might be interesting to
ask the panel to comment a little bit about the graduate experience and some of the other things. Like I know you probably mostly went to TRB, I know you went to China and to some of the other activities that we support this department, which I think is a little bit unusual. So maybe I'll let you.
So outside of the coursework? Or?
Yeah, like you went to China.
Yeah. So China was a great experience. So, you know, I did my research paper, which was already, you know, part of the curriculum. And so I did that, and Anne Goodchild was my advisor, and she said, you know, there's an opportunity to go to China if you want. We could support you. And you get to go there and do a presentation at the conference. And you know, I was kind of nervous at first because I've never done a conference. I never attended or presented anything at a conference. So, but I just said, sure. And you know, it's a one lifetime opportunity to go to China. So I've never been. So I took it and I prepared for it and went out there and it was eye opening. Like it was great. You know, you yourself were out there with us. So it was great. We went out in the middle of July, right after I graduated. It was kind of like, you know, an extended graduation prize. You know, I went to Shanghai. It was an amazing city. We were at, I think it was Tongji University. Yeah. So it's amazing to see the students there and collaborate with other, you know, world academics. It was a very great experience. I also got to go to Beijing on my way back. So yeah, it was super.
And as I have mentioned, I was a part of the Urban Trade Lab, and Lab really supported any conference that I wanted to apply and I wanted to go. And with the lab support, I was able to go and present to a couple of TRBs. TRB, if you don't know, is Transportation Research Board. Really nice conference. And also with the support of the lab, I was able to go to Sweden, to Gothenburg to present my work there and meet with other researchers in Europe, which was pretty nice. And also I know one of my other lab member was able to go to Italy, to Venice, to present our work as well. And also as a part of Urban Trade Lab, we collect a lot of data, and I got to work, not to work, but collect data with UPS drivers. So we would go for a shift from the early morning to the late in the evening, and we would collect a lot of data about how do they, what routes do they take, and what kind of decision-making process they make to choose like where to park and how to load and unload their packages and in which order to deliver the packages. So it was really eye-opening, and it was just fun.
So my general impression is that all the professors of this program, they are super helpful and they are approachable every time you have questions. They love to spend the time to answer your question and help you out. And also they encourage you like to go to different conference trainings just to improve yourself. Like I also got to go to TRB every year. They have the annual conference in DC. So as long as your paper is selected, you got to go, and all the expense gonna be covered. And I also went to Long Beach and several other places to attend the conferences. I feel those are great experience. And also, my advisor is also on good health, and we have, I don't know, at least one, I think they probably still have like every Friday we have the group meeting. Like one student brings snacks, and also another student need to present something. So we just sit down and talk about what we've done this week and learn what other people are doing. So I just feel overall it's a very friendly and very motivated atmosphere, environment, and it's very enjoyable. Yeah, and we also just hang out, like hiking or go swimming, go to gym together, and sometimes even with so I just feel, yeah, it's not, usually people feel like PhD is a very stressful, at some extent stressful journey. I agree, but meanwhile, because it's hard, right? But meanwhile, I also think I had a lot of fun, and it's a very great experience for me. Yeah.
I was just going to add that through the graduate program, the people in my cohort, they came from different states across the US, they came from countries all over the world. So it was a really great opportunity to meet new people, make friends, and 6 years later, I still talk to them. I either see them in industry for our various projects, or I just had a potluck dinner with a bunch of them at my house last month. So it's a good opportunity to meet new people.
That's great. Actually, talking about experience for exchange, actually we have other opportunities. We have a VALA scholarship program. Actually, this program pays our students to go to Scandinavia countries for exchange for up to a year. And we also attract people from those countries come to study here. So some of the students, they came and they decided to stay and finish, a degree. So I think that's certainly a great program, support our students for more international experience. Another thing I want to mention is actually the double degree program with Tongji University. We have been seeing a lot of people from Tongji, they got some of their degree, like their credits, and come here to study and finish also a master's degree with us. And vice versa, actually we can do our credits and go to there. It's actually lower the total amount of credits on each side. So your total effort, getting both master's degrees from each country, like Tongji University in China, University of Washington here, is actually smaller effort than you get from each individual school separately. So I think that's a great thing. We have this developed, and this structure is there. I'm waiting for some people to benefit from this bilateral agreement that we developed recently.
So it's 5, so we should probably wrap up. So.
Oh,
That's a big loud. Yeah, so it's 5, so we should wrap up. So thank you very much, Yenhai, and thank you, Mel, Polina, Shun, and Carmen for coming back and sharing your perspective. I think we should end there, and thank you very much to our alumni. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. And we can all stick around for a small reception. So, great. I wasn't sure if that was happening. All right. Great. So, great. Thanks very much, and thank you all.